They have embarrassed themselves once again in Washington, D.C. The last impeachment was phony and a great big hoax. This is even phonier. Just a little while ago, they pulled it off. Nancy did, impeaching the president of the United States when he has just 1 week left on the job. Talk about presidential harassment. They're blaming him for the riot last week, saying that he incited the whole thing. Here's the deal, though. There is overwhelming, totally convincing evidence that he did nothing wrong. They choose to ignore it or lie about it. But here is Exhibit A, again from last Wednesday, when he was speaking to a very peaceful assembly of Trump supporters.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
That's it. He did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. We know that things went south on Capitol Hill, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But let's give you some highlights from today, because if you're a normal person, you weren't watching television all day long, because this impeachment is in many ways meaningless, kind of like the last one. I'll get to that in a second. But there's one congressman, LaMalfa is his name, from California, a Republican, and I thought he was great. Check this out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second annual impeachment show extravaganza, brought to you by the censors and left-wing media, the fact-checked ministers of shutdown and big tech, and the Democrat Party. Today, the second annual impeachment of President Trump isn't really about actual words spoken out of rally. No, this is all about, Madam Speaker, the unbridled hatred of this president. You use any extreme language and any process to oppose the core of what he has really fought for. You hate him because he is pro-life. Strongest ever. You hate him for fighting for the freedom of our religions to not be persecuted by unfair mandates and limitations on speech. You hate him for not subscribing and shackling us with the religion of climate change and one-sided Paris Accords. You hate him for Israel. You hate him for defending our borders. You hate him for letting families and small businesses keep what they earn, for trying to keep the agents of government off their back. You hate him for putting America first, which is what I thought we do when we swear the oath. No, this shabby show isn't about a threat to our republic. This is the impeachment and muting of at least half of the American people. This is shameful and abuse of a process.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York.
The gentleman additional 20 seconds.
The gentleman from Ohio yields you another
Speaker,
20 seconds.
I pray people of all stripes wake up to this spectacle and exercise their rights to put a stop to it through free speech and through fair elections. I yield back.
He was terrific, and he's got his mask on, so I want to show you a picture of him. Again, this is Doug LaMalfa, Republican from California, and he was excellent, excellent today. And so was freshman Congresswoman Lauren Boebert from Colorado.
Glory to God. Madam Speaker, I rise today to oppose this impeachment and denounce the recent violence on the Capitol, just as I oppose the previous impeachment and the violence we've all witnessed all summer long across our great country. Make no mistake here, the hypocrisy of the left is on full display. Quote, go to the Hill, get in the face of some Congress people. We've got to fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets. Take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Go and take Trump out tonight. Sound familiar? What about the gentlewoman from New York who defended the looting by saying looters just wanted loaves of bread? Well, the last I checked, Best Buy and Teslas and stores of the like do not produce baked goods. Where's the accountability for the left after encouraging and normalizing violence? Rather than actually helping American people in this time, we start impeachments that further divide our country. I call bullcrap when I hear the Democrats demanding unity. Sadly, they are only unified in hate.
Fired.
Okay, apparently bullcrap was a little bit too much for them to handle, but she was fantastic. Lauren Boebert, again with the mask. I want to show you her, freshman from Colorado. Brand new on the scene, but she's going to be here for a while. Now, in fairness, I'm going to show you something from the other side. This is Jerry Nadler. Sorry to say this, he's my congressman. Here it goes.
President Trump, who incited this riot and who remains a grave danger to the nation. As we warned the Senate when we tried him for his first impeachment, President Trump has made clear in word and deed that he will persist in such conduct if he is not removed from power.
All right, I showed you what the other members of Congress look like. Get ready. Here's Jerry Nadler when he's at a parade. There he is. All right. So, members of Congress, you know the ones I like, but they wonder why they're so unpopular. Only 15% of the American people approve of the job they're doing. 82% disapprove. A recent public opinion poll shows President Trump at 49%, up slightly since last week. Isn't that something? All right. Now, it could be a little bit dicey because Mitch McConnell, longtime member of the swamp, majority leader in the Senate, is making noise that somehow he wants this impeachment trial to happen soon, and we're not exactly sure how he's going to vote. Mitch McConnell, huh? Mitch ought to do the right thing. I believe the president was very good to Mitch McConnell and also good to his wife, Elaine Chao, giving her a cabinet job. I actually remember this shout out at the State of the Union last January.
Working with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Thank you, Mitch.
See that little smile? Mitch was touched. I heard that they had a decent working relationship behind the scenes. But, you know, since it looks like Donald Trump is no longer president as of January 20th, Mitch is thinking about Mitch and thinking about the swamp. And here's what I think is really happening, actually. They want to hurt Donald Trump for 2024. They want to cancel him so there's no chance of him coming back. And also, you may remember that Ted Cruz was talking about a 10-day audit of the election, wasn't he, just a few days ago? Listen to this.
This Congress appointed an electoral commission to examine claims of voter fraud. 5 House members, 5 senators, 5 Supreme Court justices examined the evidence and rendered a judgment. And what I would urge of this body is that we do the same, that we appoint an electoral commission to conduct a 10-day emergency audit, consider the evidence, and resolve the claims.
Wouldn't that have been great? I hear one of the reasons why impeachment is such a priority right now is that there are folks on both sides who don't want any kind of audit of this election. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Ultimately, though, this impeachment, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Historically, it will be an embarrassment for those who voted for it. But think about the last impeachment. Did that change your opinion of Donald Trump? It didn't change mine. And the stars of impeachment, where are they now? Do you remember this guy, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman? Everybody made such a big deal. We hung on his every word for 3 days. Where is he now? He's out of uniform. He's at home somewhere trying to get a job. There's Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. This stuff just kind of fades away. Does anybody talk about impeachment? Did they talk about it during the campaign? No, this stuff kind of fades away. Now, right now, I understand we're still talking about what happened last week, the riot. It was awful, never should have happened. Those responsible must be arrested, many of them have, and be prosecuted and punished. And the loss of life, it was a tragic, tragic event, very much so. And folks here at Newsmax and throughout conservative media said so at the time. We didn't need picket lines outside. We didn't have to be cajoled into saying the right thing. And it was obvious that it was wrong. Too often, on the other side of the political spectrum, violence is, it depends what you're being violent about. Let's take a little quiz. Let's look at some images and you tell me, let's try to guess together if this is considered good or bad by the media. All right, we got a lot of cops in riot gear. Let's take a look at the headline, please. The answer is, the police are rioting. We need to talk about it. The police are rioting in that image, according to the New York Times. All right, next up, let's take a look at the image. Burning car. All right, no doubt about it. This is violent and awful, right? Let's take a look at the headline. Time magazine, Ferguson, in defense of rioting. Rioting is actually okay when it's done for certain reasons by certain people. Next up, 2 more. All right, now the media have got to think this one is bad because that guy, I think he's making a play for the cameraman. He's trying to hurt the cameraman, it looks like. Let's see what they say about this one. The prosecution of Inauguration Day protesters is a threat to dissent. A threat to dissent. That must have been the last Inauguration Day or some Inauguration Day. We haven't. All right, I want to see another one, please. Bunch of people milling around. Enough. No more shutdown. Looks pretty harmless. Let's see what the media said about this scene. COVID-19 is putting America's white grievance industry to the test. White grievance industry, that doesn't sound very good at all. Yeah, this is, they're slamming the people in that picture. You see how they play it? You see how they play it? Violence for us is always bad, must always, always comply with the law. And I want to go back to January 6th. You know, it was peaceful. Big portion of this was peaceful. What happened on the Capitol, terrible, never should have happened. But a lot of people showed up at first to get together and talk about the election. You know, I hear all the blame being put at President Trump's feet. If only he didn't have these people to Washington, D.C., in some way encourage them to come. Well, why do they want to come? Why do they want to make the trip? Maybe because no one else was talking about the very valid concerns that millions of people have about the election. Now, if the media were exploring those questions, using their resources, their assets, to really dig down and find out what went wrong, what went right with the election, maybe people wouldn't have felt so frustrated to make the trip all the way to Washington, D.C. Maybe they were sick of seeing reports like this every single day for 2 months.
There's no widespread voter fraud.
False and unverified claims about voter fraud in the 2020 election.
That there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud.
Continues to push baseless claims of voter fraud.
No credible evidence whatsoever of vast voter fraud.
They just kind of sat at their desks and at their computers looking for the information they wanted, telling each other no problems with this election. There were grave, big-time problems. We talked yesterday about the situation in Pennsylvania. We went into detail. That alone, which is still before the Supreme Court, by the way, still before the Supreme Court. Again, what happened on the Capitol never should have happened. But if some of these things were explored for weeks and months ahead of time, if you're going to put all this on President Trump, well, what about your responsibility to talk about what the American people are concerned about? I'm talking to the media right now. All right. Now I'm talking back to you, the audience, because if you really want to know why Donald Trump, why they hate him so much, I think it's encapsulated in this clip. Why they, meaning the swamp and the media, why they hate him so much. And this is part of the reason why we like him so much. The very first moments that he was president, back on January 20th of 2017, this is how he got things started.
We are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. Politicians prospered, but the jobs left and the factories closed. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country.
How do you think that made the establishment feel? It made them feel threatened, big time. You think they were comfortable at that moment? Not at all. Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, I think they were very, very uneasy. And I believe that so many levels of government did everything they could to thwart this president. Because stirring up the system, you know, going to Washington and making things happen, that's just a bunch of junk you're supposed to say in your campaign speeches. Nobody expects you to actually follow up on that. Just listen to Jeb Bush. He tried to pull it off.
We need a president willing to challenge and disrupt the whole culture in our nation's capital.
Jeb Bush, son of a president, brother of a president, said he was going to go to Washington to change the whole culture of the Capitol. Of course, he couldn't, and nobody believed him. And that's why he fell flat on his face as a candidate. That's why the Bushes are doing everything they can to hurt Donald Trump. All right, so unfortunately, we know now that Donald Trump will not be president after next Wednesday at noon. Yeah, it's a week from today. I do want to talk a little bit more about his legacy. Yesterday, we talked about ISIS. Today, his judicial legacy. He got 3 very conservative appointees onto the Supreme Court, Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. 3 in just 4 years. You know how unusual that is? Obama, 8 years in office, 2. I think the same for George W. Bush and Clinton. 3 in 4 years, that's extraordinary. Yes, he was the beneficiary of an opportunity, but he made it happen. He made some extraordinarily beautiful picks, in my opinion. And he got well over 200 federal justices or judges onto lower courts. It's a massive, massive accomplishment, and that is one heck of a legacy, ladies and gentlemen, believe me.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.